Now, it all depends on how you do your math. You have to think, okay, the number is released by Fight Hype. This is the first place I read it, is that Golovkin versus Lemieux did 150,000 pay-per-view buys, around that number. Now, if all 150,000 people paid for HD, which was $59.99, then that's a little under $9 million in revenue. Factor in how much money Golovkin made. I would say he made around $2 to $3 million. Lemieux around $1 million, maybe, about $1 million or so. And the marketing, that's a pretty successful pay-per-view, in my opinion. Now, Golovkin is not Mayweather, so you can't say, oh, well, Golovkin did 150, Mayweather's doing $1 million. No, you have to look at 150,000 plus people purchased a non-American fighters pay-per-view on American television. To have two non-American fighters fighting on an HBO pay-per-view, an American pay-per-view, to do 150,000, that's a lot to me. I think that it's a lot. Other people may not. So the question is now, does this number help the career of Gennady Golovkin? Does this number prove that, okay, well, he's on the right path as far as superstardom? Now, we know that he's pulling 1 million plus views. 1 million plus households on HBO. 150,000 people paid for this pay-per-view. And then we're going to see what the ratings are for the replay, because if a lot of people didn't pay for it, then what the replay is going to be like is also going to be a good gauge of his marketability when it comes to households reached for replay. So I think the numbers are actually pretty good. If you look at other 160-pounders outside of Miguel Cotto, maybe outside of a Miguel Cotto or a Canelo Alvarez, I don't see any other fighters in the 160-pound division that can pull pay-per-view buys like that. Maybe a Chris Eubank Jr. on Sky Sports Box Office, depending on who you match him up against. But I don't see any other 160-pounders that can really pull pay-per-view numbers like that, in my opinion. So 150,000 pay-per-view buys is the number that's being thrown around. I actually think it's a good number. I read somewhere, heard somewhere from Tom Loeffler that they wanted to do around 200,000. And I'm thinking 150,000 for two non-American fighters. And you got to remember, don't compare this to a Mayweather fight. Even though Mayweather versus Berto was a flop, don't compare these numbers to a Mayweather fight. Compare them to the fact that Roy Jones used to fight on pay-per-view and do these type of numbers. Remember, compare this to Shane Mosley versus Ricardo Mayorga being on pay-per-view. We didn't even know what those pay-per-view numbers were. So it seems like a good number to me. Just my opinion. There were some people that was getting ridiculous saying that this fight was going to do 300 to 500,000 pay-per-view buys. I pretty much knew that much that it wasn't going to do that, because even though Golovkin's a known growing name, come on, he's not. Nah. T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. Please subscribe.